Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I am your host, Chris Bello, and today's episode, I'm not even going to lie, I totally forgot to release this on Thursday. I realized in the middle of the day that I needed to do a podcast, but I was so overwhelmed with so many of the things that I was working on that I said, I'm just going to do it later. Then I met with my mastermind group for dinner. Dinner was 3.5 hours. I didn't get home until 10:45 or something at night, which is usually, I'm already asleep by then. And I said, I'm going to push this to tomorrow because the world's going to continue. And I've held myself accountable for over 2 years. I haven't missed an episode. I've been on time with every single thing. I still felt so guilty. I still felt pretty terrible. I almost wanted to record it, but I have a roommate. She was already, I think her 2-year-old was already sleeping and stuff. So I ended up just saying, I'm going to do it today, or tomorrow, which is today. And here I am doing that. And I actually have 2 other podcast interviews lined up that I'm going to be on later today as well, in the next few hours. I'm going to be on other shows, and then one guy's going to be on my show. But in any case, no excuses. I'm getting back into the grind. I want to talk today about how you need to silence the noise. You've got to drown out the noise. You've got to focus on what's important. And it can be very difficult. People give us advice. People who are not necessarily qualified at times give us their 2 cents, and it can really weigh down on you. You can really start to think about, is it true? One example, and I know my mom listens to this podcast all the time, she keeps freaking telling me every time I see her, you're too skinny, you need to put on weight. And then I posted a flexing picture after my workout yesterday, and literally everyone's like, holy crap, dude, you're so jacked. Like, oh my gosh, looking so cut. Oh, the gun show, all those comments. Because I'm so lean, I'm so ripped right now. I honestly think I've got the best physique I've ever had, and I've trimmed down. But in any case, you want to listen to your parents with certain things. They're your parents, right? They love you, they raised you. But just like I won't listen to my mom's advice about how I look because she doesn't realize that I'm summer ready, basically, pool ready. I won't take advice from them on real estate because the only house they've ever bought is the house that they live in, right? So while you may love people close to you, you may have friends that mean well, people are going to tell you things, they're going to try to slow you down, and they're going to tell you what you're working on is crazy, that you're focusing on the wrong things, that you should be safe, go get a job, all these different things. And it's very difficult sometimes to listen to those 2 cents that add up, I guess. You got a handful of change from different people's opinions, and to continue working on the things that you feel are right. Because how do you know what's right? How do you know what to work on? You're only doing the best you can with the information you have. And of course, you continue to surround yourself with people who are successful, who are where you want to be. You model their success. You see what they're doing, what's working for them. How are they lead generating? How do they handle their transactions? All those things. What do their processes look like? And the best you can do, I think, is to start to mimic them and align with what they do, and pick some things that work for you, and then some things that don't. You can tweak it a little bit, and you kind of end up with a Frankenstein mashup of things that work from multiple mentors and people in your life that you've run into. So I actually, this last week, on Wednesday, I had a little event with a bunch of real estate friends, lenders, investors, flippers, wholesalers, real estate agents, just basically people that I've met through real estate in the last few years during my journey. And one of the owners of a company called Senate House Buyers, that's the company that I talked about before. I started with them. I heard them on another podcast, and I worked with them for about a year to get my foot into the real estate space. And I guess long story short, one of the owners kind of sold his share off. There were 2 owners that were partners. And so the one partner that's now the single owner, he was one of the guys who came out who I hadn't seen in a while. He hadn't posted on social media since he took full ownership. They had kind of downsized, let a few people go. They sold the office space, which was this big, nice, expensive house in a very nice part of Houston. So he cut his expenses by more than 50%, and he had to let a few people go, and he was focusing on the important stuff. They even used to do networking, for example. They used to do networking and get booths at different events, and I noticed that they were no longer there. There was another similar company that focuses on the wholesale stuff that replaced them and started to set up booths at that event. And when I saw him, I was like, hey, what's up, man? How have you been? And I knew that he had been in the woodshed. I think I told him that. I was like, I know what you've been up to. You've been in the woodshed or the wood shop or whatever the terminology is. You've been on that grind. You've been putting in that work. You just eliminated all distractions. You cut your costs down. You stopped posting on anything. The social media page dried up. Like, they're just focused on what matters. And for that business, what matters is marketing, going on appointments, talking to motivated sellers, getting properties under contract, finding buyers who are willing to close on those properties, and collecting an assignment fee. And so he said he's been doing about 5 deals a month on average. They've got a couple key investors they're working with that are buying a lot of their deals. And I knew that sometimes you got to do that. You got to drown out the noise. We live in a world where there's so much crazy stuff happening all the time. You can turn on the TV, you can stream endless content on your phone, you can go on Facebook, you can scroll down endlessly and see various pieces of content. If you go to Instagram, it's just sensory and information overload, and it can be very distracting. It can lead us to spending hours on things that aren't going to get us any further in our businesses or in our lives. So that's why I like to think of this episode, and why I'm naming this episode Drown Out the Noise. You've got to focus on what matters. One thing that helps me is meditation, to get clarity in my thoughts, in my mind. When things are getting crazy, when things are getting stressful, I literally, if I'm getting overwhelmed and I'm feeling it, I'll put my phone on Do Not Disturb so no calls come through. I'll go to my car, or I'll stop by the gym, go to the sauna, do this in the office, wherever it is that I am. Maybe even sit on a park bench or something and just close my eyes, put some relaxing music on, some kind of like meditative, peaceful sounds, and I'll just meditate for 10 minutes, or I'll go for a walk, leave the phone at home, just go for a quick 10-minute walk, think about things, be appreciative for what I have in my life, and just start to mull over some of the problems that are maybe going on in my day. And I'll start to think more creatively on, like, how can I do this better? How can I avoid this problem in the future? How can I address this situation so all parties are happy? Those types of things. And even on this social media post that I talked about, where I had to post a flexing pic after the gym because I felt so good about how I looked and how the workout went. Even though I had a headache, I pushed through the workout. I fit it in before I had a dinner with my mastermind group. When I posted that picture, the caption said something along the lines of, there's going to be days you don't want to do stuff. You've got to do it anyway. You've got to go through the motions. You've got to put in the work. No excuses. I've got multiple deals, and I said this in the caption too. I've got multiple real estate deals that I'm working on. There's a problem with every single one of them. It's just none of them have been a very easy, smooth transaction, and so just mitigating the challenges, various expectations between sellers and buyers on what, how something is going to be versus what they thought it was going to be, and now how do I navigate through that to make them happy and get us to the closing table, all those different things. And you guys know how that goes in your life and your business. Things don't always go our way. We've got to have awkward, tough conversations at times. You're going to have to pick up the phone sometimes and make a call that you don't necessarily want to make, but that you have to make. And those things are what gets you stronger. Those things help you get to be a better person overall. Because the more you get used to handling those types of things, the more you can have those types of conversations and solve those problems. Obviously, you get paid in relation to the amount of the problems that you can solve. So the bigger the problems you solve, typically the more you're able to get paid. You solve small problems like flipping a burger, you get paid small dollars. You solve big problems like saving a homeowner from foreclosure, and you find an investor great off-market deal, you can have potentially huge rewards. The biggest deal that I had when I was with Senna House Buyers, best deal that I found, the margin was $32,000. We didn't fix the house, we didn't flip it. We just found a house at a good price with the seller who really needed to sell and had equity. And then we found an investor who really wanted that great property that was off market at a great price. It was still a good margin. We just got it at such a deep discount that we were able to make that kind of money on that deal. And so that was a big problem that we solved, and it had to be done in 2 weeks before the lady lost the house to the bank. And because we were able to solve that problem, we were rewarded accordingly. And yeah, that's basically it. Today's message is drown out the noise. Go to the wood shop or the wood shed and get your saw out and start, doing that work. There's another quote that I've heard that says, if I had 8 hours to cut down a tree, I would spend the first 6 hours sharpening the saw. I forget the exact hours, but that's something more along the lines of what it said. And it was maybe in a book that I was reading recently. I think I've heard a few people, have been attributed to say that. But in this book, I think it was saying that Abraham Lincoln mentioned that quote. So I'll give him credit this time around. But with that being said, you all have a great week or a great rest of your week. I know I'm releasing this a day late on Friday. I apologize. Things got crazy in my life, and I just let it go. I said, hey, it's going to be okay. It's just going to be this one time. But the thing is, I don't want to start slipping. I don't want to start being late on more deliverables. So this is like a one-time freebie that I was just overwhelmed with everything I was working on. And I told myself it's going to be okay if I just let it slide this one time. But of course, no excuses. If you can, or for your sanity, if you have to push something back, do it. But otherwise, just try your best to keep yourself accountable, because no one's there to tell me what to do. I didn't get fired from a boss for not releasing this on time. My girlfriend didn't really care. She doesn't know kind of like the posting schedule that I have, so she didn't know that I didn't post my episode. My mom didn't know. No one really would have known other than you guys, and this is for you. So you got to hold me accountable too, right? And so I'm holding myself accountable for you. But in any case, that's all I have for you today. Less dreaming, more doing. Go make it happen.